Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 35 of the Next Generation of Superstars podcast. Very grateful to have Josh Goldberg here, founder of Light Social Digital. He's originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he's created Light Social Digital, which is a creative media agency for professional athletes, entertainment artists, and businesses. He's also an attorney at Greenspoon Marder LLP, working with franchise law, Sportstech, innovation, entertainment, and NIL is his practice. So thanks for being on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Appreciate you having me on, Grant.
Absolutely, man. So to start off everything, I know you're a Miami Heat fan. I'm a Denver Nuggets fan. What are your thoughts right now before we dive in on the finals so far?
I'm excited. I mean, we evened it up last night, 1-1 going back to Miami. Like, that's all we can really ask for. Take one on the road. I like what I see out of Bam right now. So I think Jimmy needs to really step up to where he's been playing prior in the playoffs, but I like what I'm seeing from everyone else. I think it's going to be a long series.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting series so far, and I'm hoping our Nuggets can pull it off, but rooting that it's still a good series overall. Kind of going back to your youth, how did you really find your overall passion, for sports?
Yeah, I mean, I played sports like most of us growing up. Played a little bit of everything: ice hockey, basketball, lacrosse. And I think just like my love of playing sports developed into always wanting to find a place to work in the business of sports as well. So growing up, like, it was always my goal to really be on the agency side of things and help athletes navigate their career. I think as like a young sports fan, like, you see a lot of athletes, like, you hear the stories of them going broke after sports, and like, it was always a question mark, like, how is that possible? How are all these athletes that are millionaires going broke? How can you blow all that money? So I think from a young age, it was thinking, okay, how do we fix that issue that is across sports of athletes not all of them, but a percentage of them not being financially responsible or getting taken advantage of. A lot of it has to do with that, or not surrounding themselves with the right people, and fitting myself into that space. So whether it's on the agency side of things, where the agent is helping an athlete with their contract, I think there's a lot of roles that an athlete in today's space needs to surround themselves with to really build their team to help them outside of sports. So it's always, you have an agent, you can have a manager, an attorney, financial advisor, and there's a lot of key roles to play to maximize your potential off the field, and not fall into the same pitfalls that athletes in the past have done, spending money in not so smart ways, or just trusting the wrong people, wrong advisors, and getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I want to kind of touch a little bit more on that. How have you seen, now that student athletes are able to have everything with their NIL and be able to monetize it, how have you seen athletes at a younger age starting to become more financially responsible, as you've been talking more about the professional side? Where do you see that change right now with younger athletes starting to take more initiative with financial responsibility?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing with NIL and athletes being exposed earlier in their career, in college, being able to really run their own business. NIL, at the end of the day, it's you're building your own personal brand, and the second that you have money coming in, you have to start making the right financial decisions. So the time to make mistakes is really when you're young, so you don't repeat that in the future. So I think it's a really good thing for athletes. Obviously, it would be great to not make any mistakes financially or business wise, but I think in the NIL realm, there's a huge component from the educational side of things, and the earlier that athletes can really learn how to build their brand, manage their finances, they can take that into their later stages of their career if they do end up going pro. But even if they don't go pro, I think NIL is a stepping stone from an educational standpoint to really help athletes understand and build their business and financial acumen to really understand what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
That's
that's spot on. Going back to what you were saying, I think that's important. Like you, with them being at a young age, student athletes, now that they can actually go and get different resources for help with financial aspect. I think that's so important because if they can learn that at an early age, it can really help them long term. What has been some of the lessons or skills that you've developed, from sports to kind of help you in your work today in your professional career?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest aspects of sports, at least team sports, is playing as a team. You need to really know your role, whether it's helping an athlete. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. You can't do everything for an athlete. They can have multiple aspects to their team, and it's really filling your role and doing your job, and keeping good communication. That's always a key to success. You see it in professional sports. The teams that can communicate the best on the floor tend to do better. And I think teamwork and good communication in the business world and working with athletes, it's key to really building a foundation, building a solid plan, keeping everyone on the same page so that you can really implement what you want to do and push forward with it.
100%. And that's so well said. And going off that, for all the young athletes and young fans in our audience, a lot of them want to kind of get into this whole creator economy and really be able to get into the sports tech space. You being able on the agency side of things with Light Social Digital, where did you really find that inspiration to create that and make such a positive impact, in professional athletes' lives and businesses and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, I think the future of the modern day athlete is really the athlete as a creator. In today's social media age, it's important to establish a brand for yourself. Everyone's a brand. Individuals, whether you're just working at a law firm, if you don't build a brand for yourself, people won't find you, and you won't be able to get clients. And the same really goes for anyone, but especially athletes. Brands want to work with athletes that are not just great players on the field, which is obviously a huge advantage, but also are doing things off the field. And a lot of athletes do plenty of good things for the community off the field. They really are building outside businesses, but they don't always highlight it through social media. And a lot's changed over the past decade, where the importance of really branding yourself, and showcasing what your interests are and what your values are and who you align with is important on social media. And in turn, the more you build your brand, you'll attract like-minded individuals, businesses that you can partner with. So I really, with building my media company and helping athletes, I saw a need for athletes that needed guidance with their social media, with the end goal really to be to show the entire scope of an athlete, not just what they do for work on the field, but everything they do off the field, the training that's involved with it, but also their interests, what they like to do as passions, because your career as a professional athlete, it can end really at any second.
Yep.
And if you don't start building, whether you're college or pro, really college now, because NIL is given the platform to athletes to build now at a younger age, you're just chancing it once your career is over. You want to really plant the seeds while you're playing, so that those relationships can grow, and that once you do end your career, that your business career will continue and you'll be able to continue that success off the field.
100%. Yeah, no, Josh, I love that. And I think it's so important. You touched a lot about the creator economy, and we're talking to a lot of our student athletes about that, as like, go and build your brand, go and get more NIL deals, go and really give back to the community and give back to charities, and really just build yourself more than just as you being an athlete on the field or on the court, because this can benefit you long after your playing days. And that's what a lot of athletes are starting to realize and really dive in, and like, how can I position myself as my own personal brand? We have athletes starting their own podcasts, giving back to their own, nonprofits or youth organizations, even writing books and doing more stuff off the field that's going to help them and set them up for later on after their career. And I think going a little bit further into your business, how did you start those relationships with some of those professional athletes, such as Pat Surtain and Anthony Schwartz and all those guys?
Yeah, I think like going being a part of the creator economy, it's really, you either got to start right now or you're going to get left behind. Their technology evolves so fast, and you need to just really go for it and do it. A lot of athletes aren't always extroverted and have the capacity to, or even the desire to be super active on social media. A lot of athletes prefer to be more private in their lives, and you have to respect that. But there's an ability to grow your brand and audience even if you want to keep a part of your life private. I think part of like the beauty and like the negative aspect of social media is that it's so curated that everyone's life looks perfect on social media. You
Right.
get to show what you want to see, which is a pro and a con. But if you're an athlete and you're more hesitant to share on social media, say that you want to be more private with your life, the average fan doesn't really know that. They just want to see content, and having someone that's able to develop content for you and run your brand, and doing aspects of, so not everyone has to have a podcast, not everyone wants to be a public speaker, but like you mentioned before, it could be blogging, writing a book. There's a ton of other business ventures that don't necessarily require the speaking aspect that not everyone is comfortable with. But it's really becoming comfortable that way. With being a part of the creator economy, like as an athlete, you just really have to build your persona and be instinctive with what you want to share and what you want to keep private. But you just have to post. If you don't post, no one's gonna become interested in and really value you as a person outside of just being, oh, he's a football player, he's a basketball player. People want to be a fan of the person off the field, off the court. And if you can build an audience through just who you are as a person, there's a lot more value there outside of the sports realm for you to go pursue other business ventures in the creator economy. So we've seen that with other influencers in the space that are able to launch products. And that's really where I see this going. With a lot of athletes, they maybe want to launch their own alcohol. We've seen that, investments into different wine companies, or it could just be launching their own branded products. You have Jimmy Butler right now, who has his own coffee brand that not only is making money from selling coffee beans, but just the merchandise and lifestyle aspect. It's more than a brand. People like Jimmy Butler, they like the brand aspect, and he's selling a bunch of merchandise that way.
100%.
But yeah, but to circle back to really building the relationships with athletes in the space, I think as part of my media and marketing business with Light Social Digital, I was really able to leverage providing value for athletes by providing something that they needed. They needed help and with content, photography, videography, it could be merchandise, and really launching their website. And once you're able to provide value for athletes, it's building trust in that space, and then being able to provide good advice, but also follow through on it. So I think that's really the key to building relationships in the spaces. Giving good advice, being a trusted advisor, and creating a great product, whether it's on the media side or just on the legal side of providing services. Players like Pat Surtain and Anthony Schwartz, I went to the same high school as them. I'm a few years older, but really just building the connections in the community. It was a very easy approach just to have a level of trust where I have a good product. I have good references to be able to then meet people in this space and provide value for them. So I think it's really just providing a good product, a good service, and then word of mouth travels and building the relationships from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that we stress so much too at Burst with our athletes is, building that relationship. And even when they go out and talk to other founders or CEOs and businesses and brands, how can they position themselves to really, dive in further into what the transaction is and really build that core foundation of an actual relationship, right? That the value that you're giving and the trust that you're building with that person, because that can last a lifetime. And I think going further into what we touched on earlier with the NIL, name, image, and likeness, it's been such a hot topic of conversation. What were your initial thoughts in the summer of 2021 when you saw that actually becoming legitimized, even though there was a lot more, and there still is, to uncover with regulations and rules around it?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time. The past, I guess we're coming up on 2 years now next month. It's still an exciting time. So much is evolving in the NIL space. It was far past time, July 1st, 2021. And I'm super glad looking back that the whole process was sped up. If you remember back even like a year or two prior to the July 1st, 2021 start date, California was the first state to pass an NIL bill, and their start date, I believe, wasn't even until 2023. So then Florida came in, my home state, and we put the July 1st, 2021 start date in. And then you saw other states continue to match Florida's start date. And the NCAA kind of just stood there, not really believing that this was going to happen, but everyone in the industry knew this was going to happen. So I think it's a great thing for college athletes. A lot is going to continue to evolve and change in the industry, but as long as college athletes are able to monetize their NIL, I think that them being afforded the same opportunities as any other college student is the right thing to do. There's no reason that the past rules should be restricting athletes from being able to monetize their NIL, create a YouTube channel, and not be able to do that on the side of also being an athlete. So I think it's a great thing, and it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is. And I think, as you said, it was a long time coming, and to be able to have that in place where student athletes, it's getting more at the high school level, be it at the collegiate level, for them to go and build their brand. And we touched a lot about that, of just really building a brand that's more than just what you're doing in academics or on the field, on the court. Even if you have a side hustle, whatever it is, you have to build your own personal brand. And NIL is really allowing for younger athletes to do that. Going a little bit further into just the whole industry of sports tech, where do you think everything with technology, as it's constantly evolving, is playing into sports, and how is it helping people that want to get involved in the industry, or people that are in it, or the athletes? Where do you see this overall industry going the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I mean, like, even today, so we saw like the Apple announcement with the VR AR headset, and some of the footage they were showing off was like watching a NBA game and having graphics dead center right in front of your face. Yeah. Not the most fashionable goggles, if that's what you want to call them, but I think that's just a start. Just how like phones used to be with a cord, maybe even like when we were younger, like almost before our time. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, that tech is going to really transform and be beneficial from the consumer perspective, increasing the fan experience and fan engagement from the living room of people's homes, but also for the benefit of athletes. I think that there's a lot of data and sports tech companies that can utilize data to better the health of athletes and really look out and help athletes in the recovery space. I think a lot of work needs to be done from the concussion side of things, especially in the NFL, and research into that. I mean, a lot of sports have concussion concerns, but I think the technology will be there to make waves to really be able to track this, to track the right statistics there. But I think we'll see a lot of things that in the tech side of things that will be beneficial both for athletes and the health and safety side of things. And I'm also excited from the consumer standpoint of how that can make the fan experience better, not just in the arena, but also at home.
Yeah. No, it's going to be awesome when you see the whole metaverse environment, and now, with Web3 really exploding, there's going to be so many things that are just going to keep evolving over the next several years. From a legal perspective, as you also practice law, when you see stuff with Web3 and blockchain technology, you see things such as smart contracts being involved, all this different stuff that can actually help with player contracts and more things, as well as the data and analytics for their health and injury prevention, where do you see all this tying into, more of that realm of things, within sports tech?
Yeah. I mean, with sports tech, the AI it's still at its very beginning stages, but I think it's going to completely transform the legal field, with helping automate a lot of processes, speed things up. And I think it'll be beneficial, not just for lawyers, but everyone, to really be more efficient, and be able to offer better advice for people in the field. But I think there will always be a concern for data privacy, protecting the data of not just the users, the consumer, but also of the actual, whether you're using a product to protect the player data, whatever usage that is. And you want to make sure whatever monetary dollars are connected to all this, that like the right people are getting paid for utilizing that data. But I think with the way everything is transforming in the metaverse, with VR, AR, and artificial intelligence, it's important to keep up with it. And I think it's a great opportunity for athletes to really cement themselves in the space to grow their brand. If you're already tuned into the NBA finals through YouTube TV, why can't you have a pop-up ad of Jimmy Butler, who has a good YouTube channel, pop up in your goggles that's saying subscribe here to me? Help the NBA should be trying to grow viewership of other players' brands, and vice versa. They're already using YouTube as a platform, and I'm sure other social media platforms will pop up. But I think it's important for athletes to really take advantage of these partnerships. You have Twitch with the NFL has a partnership. There's a lot of investment from the leagues going into these platforms, and the players that are growing their audience on those platforms, they're going to really benefit from this, because you're going to have the leagues pushing those players, and they're going to be the ones that are doing the marketing and endorsement deals, saying go subscribe to YouTube TV, subscribe to Twitch. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Yeah,
no, 100%. And I think that's so incredible that we're seeing that, you're seeing these bigger organizations like the NFL and NBA and all and more, just actually being open-minded that there is more they can do that can benefit, the players, part of their league and association. Right. And kind of wrapping things up here, Josh, you've dropped a lot of great insights for our fans and the audience. Where do you want to go with your career? What's kind of like your big grand vision? And going off that, where do you plan on kind of giving back to make a positive impact on your community, and especially the youth that looks up to you?
Yeah, I think it's hard to really know where I'll be 5 to 10 years from now, but I do know that my goal is to really help athletes, influencers, people that are, and today's influencer is just, it could be anyone. It can be an athlete. I don't think there's really a distinction there, but I think within the next 5 to 10 years, it's really just positioning myself to be a trusted resource and advisor, both from the attorney perspective, but also just from building a brand off the field and understanding the media aspect. I think there's not that many attorneys out there that understand the digital marketing side of things. So being able to add that value in the space and just continue to learn as businesses evolve, I think it's going to be very important to keep up with AI. I don't even think that may be possible to keep up with AI, but continuing to be a trusted advisor to athletes and really just help them build their brands off the field, build in the creator economy. I think that's really the future of it. Athletes want to have brands outside of sports. They want to invest in alternative means other than just traditional stock market. Nowadays, you have a lot of athletes launching their VC firms, doing private equity deals. Some are into real estate, franchising, launching their own products. So I think being able to understand a lot of that space and what it takes to launch a brand and build a brand will be key.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's big. And I think just really positioning yourself in your own niche that can make an impact and solve a real, need for these athletes and influencers like you are doing with this sector of digital marketing. Wrapping up here, Josh, what would you say, to your younger self or even the youth that looks up to you, 3 pieces of advice, especially for this next generation that could help them out?
Yeah, I think number one is to learn, just to keep learning and be curious, I guess, about all these new technologies that are developing. I think that's part of like the great thing of growing up is like, think about like the older generations don't understand technology as much. People that are 10 years younger than us that are really growing up in a complete digital age where we kind of, even as like mid 20-year-olds, grew up, I guess, a half digital footprint, half still in the pre-social media era. The younger generation really will be able to have a firmer grasp on this. And then as new technology comes up, just as like we were able to understand technology way better than our parents, I think it'll be in their hands as well. So I'm excited for the younger generation to really lead the advancements in this space. And I think like it doesn't really matter your age in this space. Like you can, there's always a lot of value, especially in the creator and media space. And if you understand what you're doing, you understand it. Going with that, number 2, like don't set boundaries for yourself. Really just go for it. Just do it. If you want to try to launch your own company, you can't really rely on other people. You're gonna, like, even if you seek out advice, which you definitely should do, about whether you should try to launch something or not, make sure you're seeking out advice from the right people, other founders that have had failures and successes, to really understand what you're getting yourself into. And not everything is going to be a success right away, but you really need to grind it out. And 3, I think you got to remember you can't really rush the process. Like I said before, like if your age doesn't really matter, you can be any age to really become a social media star today or influencer, and really become a part of the creator economy and grow in the space. But not everything happens overnight. And there's plenty of popular influencers, creators that are 50, 60 years old that didn't pick up TikTok before the pandemic. So I think you can't rush success. You really just gotta go with the flow of how the economy transforms and find your niche, but get ready to pivot if you have to. And I think if you're just grind, that opportunities will come.
I love it. And just to kind of recap everything you said, Josh, you said number 1, keep learning and always be curious, especially about this whole technology and sports tech, realm of things. You said number 2, don't set boundaries for yourself and go and do it. I think both of us are prime examples of going and actually setting out to create something and found a company that's actually going to make an impact, especially within the athletes space. And then you said number 3, you're right. Nothing happens overnight, and you can't rush that process. You have to put in the time and effort, and you have to seek help when needed, but also have patience. And I think that's, from you looking at a bigger scheme of things is so important, because I think in the younger generation, they like to have things instantly. And that doesn't always happen, especially when you want to build something that's going to long after your lifetime. So Josh Goldberg here. Appreciate you for being on episode number 35 of the Next Generation of Superstars podcast. Go follow Light Social Digital and Greenspoon Marder and Josh all over social media, and stay tuned for him making a huge digital footprint and in person, with athletes and influencers and everyone in the entertainment industry. Appreciate you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me on, Grant. It's super excited to see what we both can build in this space.
Absolutely.